So we're going to go over how job families are set up as today, but like everything at GitLab, we iterate. So
Yes.
at the time of this recording, it could be very different than when people are watching this. But essentially, our job family page lays out the guidance of how do you create a new job family, how do you edit an existing one, what should they look like, and the approval flow that it goes through. There are two templates to the job family of how they're set up today. Template one is where there's maybe one or two job titles, and it's more about the levels within that same kind of job title. So, for example, let's say we're talking about a technical account manager or TAM here at GitLab. Generally speaking, for TAM, there's going to be a overview, regardless of if you're a beginning in an IC role, or maybe even up to the director level of what
hmm
is a TAM job family responsible for? How are they contributing to the overall success of GitLab?
hmm
And they also are probably going to have shared responsibilities and requirements. So
Okay.
regardless of what level, if you're on this job family, you're all responsible for this, which is generally speaking, most of the time just a continuation of the overview in a
Yeah.
bulleted format. And
Yeah.
then what are the requirements for this job family? So the ability to use GitLab can be up here because it's shared by every level and every position on that job family page.
hmm
And then maybe a requirement is you need to know SQL, or you need to know Ruby, or you need to know whatever the case may be. And so anything that's shared between all levels on that page would be at the
Yes.
top. And then in a heading 2, you have the levels, and each level is a heading 3. So what is the name of this level? So I think
Okay.
we have the technical account manager at an intermediate. I don't think we have any junior or associate. Is that correct?
We do. On the
We
page today, we
do.
have we have junior and senior on the page today.
Okay. So you would start at the lowest level and then
Yep.
show your career progression as you get
Right.
further on the page. So this first one would be a junior TAM.
hmm
And then you would say the junior TAM reports to, and then who does it report to? And then you don't have any like opening blurb about the junior TAM because again, you've
Right.
already kind of done that
Yes.
in the
hmm
overall job family. And you get right into a heading 4 with the job grade. So a
Yep.
junior tab job grade is whatever. And then a heading 4 responsibilities and requirements. So this may be where maybe as a junior, you're responsible for actioning something. And as you get into the more senior levels, maybe you're responsible for the strategy or the direction or whatever the
hmm
case may be. I believe that it's very helpful for responsibilities and requirements to be in the same kind of bulleted list so you can see the progression of something. So if I'm a
Yep.
junior and I look at bullet 1, and if I'm a senior and I look at bullet 1, they show me what the difference between those two levels are and how
Yep.
I can progress to that next level. So same thing with requirements. Maybe to be a junior, I need 1 year experience in X. But
hmm
maybe to be a senior, I need 3 years of experience in X. So if that number of years of experience in X is at bullet 1 for each the junior and the senior level or the intermediate level, I can see what is that natural progression that I need to be accomplishing to get to that next
Right.
level.
Yep.
Um, if there's anything that would be like, okay, if you're a junior, you're responsible for this. And if you're an intermediate, you're responsible for all that the junior is responsible for and more. At the end of this template, it says don't repeat the more junior requirements for more senior levels.
Right.
Instead, add a bullet that just says extends the name of the level. So extends the junior TAM
Yes.
responsibilities. So
Yep.
you want a single source of truth as much as possible in these job
Right.
families without copying and pasting the exact same things over and over.
hmm
And then underneath the levels, performance indicators sometimes are going to be different depending upon what level you're at. So instead of listing the exact same performance indicators for junior, intermediate, senior manager, if they're all the same, you would then add it as a heading 2
Okay.
later on in the page. So
Okay.
anything that is not applicable, you could leave out. I don't think there's ever a case where you would leave out the responsibilities or requirements, but the performance indicators you would probably leave out of the heading 4.
Yeah.
Sometimes the hiring process is different depending upon. So right now, like on template 1, we have the hiring process as a heading 2 at the end. But if it's not the same for the entire job family, maybe we would add that as a subsection with the heading 4 underneath that level. Or maybe it applies to level, junior and then senior, but it doesn't apply to a manager role or whatever the case may be. So you kind of have to sometimes play with that, but as much as possible, we want one single source of truth for
Mhm.
that. Or I've also seen it, and I'm okay with this, where people in the bulleted list will say, like, this interview is applicable to the director level or something like that.
Yep.
I'm okay with that too, as long as we're just clearing it up for who is ever looking at this.
Okay.
Sometimes they're segments, sometimes they're specialties. These are a little different. I don't think we necessarily have to go into this today. I think you all maybe have public sector, maybe
Mhm.
another specialty, but it's all about the heading. So heading 2 is kind of this what's applicable to the entire thing. And then the subheading 3 of like the name of the
Okay.
specialty. And then as heading 4 is what is that specialty requirements and so on.
Yep.
The career ladder for the most part will be a heading 2 because this is kind of laying out the like career growth within the job family. And a career ladder is what would be outside of this job family. So the natural progression of somebody at GitLab would be this. But as we all know, TAMs have come from recruiting before or different organizations outside of this job family. So the career ladder generally is a heading 2. And
Okay.
then again, the performance indicators, if they're the same, or the hiring process. I prefer to have as high of a level on the same job family as we can go, because I think historically at GitLab, we've been using job families and like job descriptions in the same way. And that
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't necessarily be the case. A job family is really that overarching umbrella that encompasses more than one specific role. So
Right.
if we could have TAMs from junior all the way to director
Myself.
or to VP, senior director, I don't know what level that stops at, but I really want somebody to be able to see, okay, if I'm coming in as a junior, what do I need to be doing to get to a director
Right.
ultimately? And I think sometimes there's that seniority if we have those like director or VP levels on different job families. It seems like it's unobtainable
Mhm.
because we separate it out. So if we can include it on the same page, I think that's ideal.
Yeah.
And then there's some more details on the handbook page. There is a job family 2 template on the handbook page, which I don't think applies
So,
to you all, but I'll kind of walk you through it just so you
yep.
understand the difference. Um, but this is when there's probably 3 or more different job titles, but
Right.
all trying to accomplish the same goal. So for example,
Yeah.
my personal job family has template 2 because while our overview is the same, how everybody's contributing to that is very much different. And
Sure.
there's no like 2 people for the same role. It's all
Right.
one-offs. What Eric does, what Heather does, what I do, it's all very different, but
Mhm.
we're all going towards that same goal. So you'll notice there's a job family overview, but then it goes right into a heading 2 for what's the role, with a brief description of the role and who that role reports to, their responsibilities as a heading 3 requirement and job grade. Same thing with performance indicators. Our performance indicators are different depending upon how they're contributing. And so the performance indicators for my job family is a heading 3, and then it should link to the actual data output. And I know we're maturing as far as having linkable performance indicators. Um, and then the career ladder could be a heading 3 because for my analyst, their career ladder is actually going to the data org and not necessarily the recruiting org. So for our job family, it makes more sense to have each one of these, like the hiring processes are totally different. And then we go into the next role. So template 1 and template 2 are really quite different, but they are all this same umbrella of like, what is the overall job, family, or team trying to accomplish, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.